And here we go. Welcome to You Had Me at Halo's 54th episode, where we're going to delve into one of gaming's most storied franchises. And we got a few things to get caught up on. It's been a few weeks since we really talked about some news. And we do have some missteps by 343 that we have to cover this week. Unfortunately, Halo was not at E3, and we want to talk about that, including some reasons why it may not have been there, including some rumors and some potential future of Halo, what we are expecting. Before we get into all that, though, I'd like to introduce my Spartan cast. First up, we got Spartan Aarsal, aka Mr. Soulblazerz. How's it going?
Yo, going well. Busy week though. Very busy week.
Yeah, I had you busy today, so I know you're juggling a lot of things for XboxEra. E3 week is burnout week for us. So I feel like everybody is going to be kind of operating on fumes today. So who knows what's going to happen with all our filters getting broken. Next up, we got Spartan Daniel, aka Mr. Knottian. What's up, Daniel?
Not much. Ready to get going. It's been a long week. Yeah, the like you were saying, the E3 burnout and the amount of posts we've had to moderate, I'm sure it's been felt by at least 3 of us here.
Yep.
We have a form.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a little bit more active. They're active and they're very opinionated. So next up, we got Spartan Austin. Now no longer Mr. Forebear. You're AKA Mr. Austin Ford Games.
Yes.
Rebranding.
Yes, sir. I decided that it would be better for me to have a name that was easier to remember, to pronounce, and to spell. I was tired of hopping into Twitch chats and people being like, "Pufahor bear, poor bear."
Oh man, how do you say this?
Right. R.I.P. Forebear. I loved the username. It was a cool marathon reference. But say la vie. I am like, rest in peace, Forebear. Long live Austin Ford Games.
Well, we're happy to have you either way, Mr. Austin. So, all right, guys, and then finally your host, Mr. OneBadMutha, aka Abe. Anyway, so let's get right into it.
Oh, big energy tonight, guys! Jesus.
Yeah. Here we go. Well, we're gonna get some of the negative stuff out of the way first. I think we do need to mention it because it's been the hot topic of Twitter, of YouTube, of podcasts. If Halo's brought up these, right now, and it, obviously Halo's been laying low for the most part without being at E3, but I found its way into the news, unfortunately, this week. So, first off, before we kind of delve into the topic, want to just, make sure that we put it out there that our XboxEra, everybody here, we don't have any tolerance for any sort of bigotry, racism, any homophobia, things like that. Our community is very diverse, and so nothing that's going to be talked about here is going to be defending it. If we'll just say,
I don't
if
think
anything,
anyone watching has to worry about sympathizing with something that happened over the course of this week.
Right.
Sympathizing with the team and the unfortunate fact that 343 just seems like they can't catch a break. Obviously our empathy and sympathy, everything goes out to those guys who are just taking blow after blow on some of this stuff. But the thing that specifically happened, which Abe is referring to, the bonobo color palette being erroneously released, named that, is not something that any of us saw and were happy about.
Yeah. In fact, you were extremely unhappy, Austin, when you first saw that, and rightfully so. I think regardless of what happened, and we'll talk about that here in a moment, just to kind of, like I said, make sure that we at least delve into what that controversy was and what's been said about it. But regardless of why it happened, whether you believe it was an accident or not, even if you believe it's an accident, it's still something that obviously is going to impact a lot of people, and they have a right to feel the way they feel about that, right? So, but I think you have a little bit more context to that, Austin, so I'll let you keep going on with that.
Sure. So, good news, we got a drop pod Bad news. Around the time that this drop pod released, 343 included a brand new emblem in the game. 343 has this great history of being very supportive of minority communities in whatever form that might take, be it LGBTQ. There's a pride emblem in the game now. People that are oppressed throughout the world, including people even just here in America, which is our black population, which makes up a huge portion of the population in the United States. So a very important, absolutely. A very important part of that is Juneteenth, which a quick rundown, if you're not familiar with Juneteenth, basically in 18, I'm fucking gonna get this year wrong. It was either 1868 or 1866. The Emancipation Proclamation was released, freeing slaves in southern states during the Civil War. 1865. Fuck. You're right. The problem with that is that message didn't actually get to the entire country. So it was a full 2 years later in 1867 in the state of Texas, where the last enslaved African Americans were made aware of the fact that slavery had ended. So it happened on June 19th, 1867. That is why it is called Juneteenth. It's something that's been celebrated in Texas for a very long time, actually. And this year, President Biden made it an officially recognized day. So very cool stuff happening there. Unfortunately, 343 put this emblem in the game, and as the emblems work in Halo Infinite, they have color palettes that you can select. Some emblems, like the Pride emblem and this emblem, only have one color palette. The color palette for this emblem was released with the name Bonobo, which, if you're not familiar, is a great ape that is heavily associated with negative racial connotations for some of their characteristics. We're not going to go into the specifics there. If you're curious, please do your own research. But I don't want to give anyone that may be listening or watching the opportunity to be an asshole. The problem with this is that it was released within an hour of this happening, of the patch being put out, of the emblem being released, of the palette being found. It was put up on the Halo subreddit, and people were not thrilled. This was then sent directly to Sean W., who's another Halo content creator in the community, who is half black himself. And he made a YouTube video about it and reacted to it in real time. And obviously, this was not fucking okay. Within 24 minutes, 343 had acknowledged that this happened. He didn't put out a statement, but within 24 minutes of Sean W.'s video going live, the name of the emblem was changed to, the name of the color palette was changed to Freedom. So they corrected the issue. A few hours later, a statement was made by the community team, specifically John Unichak over there at 343, where he said, hey guys, this was a mistake. We have a tool set internally that we use. And unfortunately, there was an issue where this just wasn't caught the way it was supposed to. Didn't give a ton of details as to why this happened, why the name of their tool set would have interfered with the naming of a color palette in game, anything like that. A couple of former developers, including somebody who used to work at Bungie and Xbox, who I won't name for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, I can't remember his name. But a former developer at Bungie came out and said, hey guys, so Bungie, even still to this day, still uses this for some of their software. And it was one of the tool sets that was given over to 343. If you've ever played the Master Chief Collection, you're aware that there are now mods publicly available for the MCC. One of the tools that is publicly available is Sapien. The other one is Gorilla. Gorilla is the tag tool set used for Halo. It's what the engine uses to call any asset in the game: weapons, art, foliage, character models, all of that stuff. That was the old tool set that was used up until around 2006. Bungie upgraded the tool set, and as a nod to the original name, called it Bonobo. Unfortunately, this tool set is still called Bonobo. The reason why that's unfortunate is that, to our understanding, Daniel has a contact that confirmed this as well. Whenever new files are created using this tool set, it defaults to the name of the tool set. So a new object will be titled bonobo.bsp, for example. Whatever files that they're using, anything like that. Just like if you were to save an unnamed image or file or whatever, you're going to get untitled.jpg, untitled. Word file or whatever. This was an instance, from my understanding now, Daniel, and I hope that you'll jump in on this, was that this was just an unfortunate QA mishap that wasn't caught.
Yeah, basically. And the exact word the exact phrase I was told was the shittiest coincidence. So,
yeah. This was literally worst case scenario.
Right.
We got to read an anecdote. I put it up on the forums. An anecdote from a previous dev who, when Bungie started using PlayStation calls for some of their tags, they didn't have the S capitalized when they implemented the PlayStation tag, so they had to go back and change that. Guerrilla does this too, where it will not just save a capitalization change. You have to add something to it, save that, and then delete that. So he changed PlayStation to PlayStation I Love Shiba Inus. The funniest part about this is he went back and deleted the I Love Shiba Inus from most tags, but in a playtest, he got a bug submitted to him where whenever a PlayStation controller would be disconnected, the game would feed back through, please reconnect your PlayStation I Love Shiba Inus controller. It's just another example of weird quirks in the engine that Bungie used for half a decade and that 343 has continued to use since they became the heralds of the franchise.
And I do want to call that out too a little bit, just because I didn't want to come on here today when we address this and basically start going, well, of course, we're just going to automatically believe it's a coincidence and I'll just automatically say what we want to believe, because that's what I wanted to believe. When I heard this, I'm like, I hope it's a mistake. I don't want to believe
right.
And we know anybody who's living in America knows that there's assholes all over the place, right? And every company. And so the idea that somebody could do something malicious is not it wouldn't be unheard of, right? Anywhere. And so I read, and I was going through Twitter, and I was listening to even buddies of mine. And a lot of people weren't buying it. They're like, this is just too many coincidences. And this, they're 343 isn't explaining how this got there. And I didn't want to come on today and start, automatically assuming that, making that connection without any evidence, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know how development works in that regard. In speaking to you, Daniel, what you heard, maybe go, okay, yeah, that's way more plausible now, because when you kept hearing the preponderance of people kind of saying, no way, this is not a coincidence, this is somebody doing something malicious, it got through QA. At the end of the day, it did get through QA. I will say, if I was in QA, I wouldn't have known wouldn't have known it's an animal to begin with. It's just,
that's something too, and I know that we don't want to spend the entire podcast or anywhere near that on this topic, but and Daniel will also 100% agree with this point, I think, which is if you work in an office and you use software every day, let's say that software is called Trace. If you see the word Trace somewhere, you're just going to ignore it. You're not going to think anything of it.
Right.
You should be more attentive to that, especially if you're responsible for making sure that names and things like that are coming through. Like Daniel said earlier, this is just the shittiest coincidence ever.
Yeah. And what I would say too is so the thing is, this doesn't necessarily exclude the possibility that, maybe somebody in QA or somebody in dev was malicious, right? That's not what all we're saying. Right. We're saying that the possibility for this to happen systematically from what Austin was saying, QA just seeing, oh, that's a file type, I know, that's the tool we use, that is absolute, that type of shit happens all the time where I work. And if you knew where I work, you'd be like, well, fuck, that kind of sucks. But that it's one of those things that I think none of us and nobody should be saying, that unless we have change logs, no one can definitively say exactly what happened and to what intent it occurred, right? But just knowing how dev works, knowing how changes go through change process, through cab and all that kind of stuff, you know, Occam's razor, right? A lot of times the simplest answer is the most likely one. So
at the end of the day, it is possible. The other thing is also possible, right? Like you could still have somebody who's malicious.
Oh,
we
totally.
Don't know that.
And I think all of us would agree that if there was somebody there that did that, they should be fired, and we'd be celebrating.
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yep.
I think the funny thing is that there is a third option here, which is the majority of the cast of this podcast is white men. Right. I would say the majority of us are straight, but I don't want to speak for anyone who may not be, myself included. I think as it pertains to this is that there are people that are malicious in the world that may be at 343. Somebody like we've all said, somebody may be responsible intentionally for doing this. They should be reprimanded if so. The thing is, though, is that if the person that was in charge of the final check on this, right, not that it's necessarily that easy, but say there's one dude who is just like most of us on this cast, who is just a white dude trying to get through his day. He's just making sure that there aren't like % signs and equal symbols next to names to make sure that none of the names are genuinely bugged out or anything. Sees it and doesn't think anything of it again because the system... Like ignorance is also something that has to be considered in this, which like, again, that's giving the benefit of the doubt for the situation. But so is the reason why 343 came out and told us that this likely happened. Yeah. I think we just have to hope for the best. And if it was malicious, hopefully it's not something that ever happens again. I would not be surprised also if the name of this software isn't changed at some point in the near future, or at least the code that calls to default name something after the program.
So yeah, and I think that's a good explanation. And from here, we just kind of because that's all the information we have. So let's move forward with maybe some of the reasons why they don't get the benefit of the doubt these days. So 343 has obviously had a couple other things, and I think I will just knock these out. And I want to really get into the E3 because I don't want this to just be constantly bagging on stuff. But there's been a few other things out there. The best way I can put this is I think when you sometimes you build up equity, right? Like people trust you do things right long enough, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I think 343 is kind of on a little bit of a, you want to say like losing streak. It's something, like when you're a team on the losing streak, then when a player has a bad game, probably the fans are going to not give them as much benefit of the doubt. So I think right now, over the last few weeks, a couple other things popped up. We had, price increases significantly on this new armor core set. Previous to that, we had a sniper playlist that didn't have snipers in it half the time. So, there's been some weird, like shooting themselves in the foot kind of stuff that's been happening. And I know, Austin, we were kind of debating this a little bit in the when we're playing Halo. So they had that. Gerard came out recently and said, hey guys, we're hearing you on these price increases, keep giving us feedback, and we're going to react to that stuff. And my thing was like, okay, like 343 kind of putting that out there is sort of conditioning the audience right now to complain. Like really, like basically they're telling us that they're going to keep trying to find the edge. And I get it, and so you mentioned this, I'll let you talk in a minute here, but I'll say my piece. I think that in general, what's going on right now is them constantly not being proactive enough, not, catching things ahead of time, maybe not reading the trend of the room. I don't know, kind of reading the room better a little bit, and waiting to be reactive every single time is kind of making every single misstep worse than it needs to be. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But I don't. So I know you had a differing thought on the pricing thing.
I mean, when it comes to the prices, at least in my head, it looks like it's a pretty clear situation of, hey, we released them way too expensive, we brought them down pretty low, and now we're trying to get them up to where people will stop buying them. Which sounds pretty normal. I mean, again, yeah, it is high. 1,700 is pretty high for admitting it's a cool looking armor set, but it is still pretty high. I feel like it'll probably go back down eventually to like 15. But either way, in terms of the feedback, though, I feel like if you're 343, right now, no matter what you do, you release a drop pod that has fixes, all your responses are negative. You release, even if they released a lower price thing, because I was still watching the community when the prices were low, there was never any like positive response to that. It was just like, oh, okay, that's not bad, neutral at best. You know what I mean? So if you're 343, if every single thing you do right now, regardless of whether it's good or bad, gives you either a neutral or a bad response, how much can you value, or how much do you value this like Twitter or Reddit feedback?
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
I think some of the interesting thing that they're doing right now is what this reads to me is something that I feel like Bungie did kind of early on in Destiny 2's lifespan, which is we're going to kind of play the field a little bit. Our vocal community is extremely vocal, but obviously a majority of our players are not vocal. So Soul, you specifically said this earlier when we were offline, but the idea that like we're just going to judge how much it's being purchased. I think that that's 100% on the money. I think that 343 is starting to become wise to the fact that like maybe we just can't please the subreddit. Maybe we just
and you shouldn't.
No, and that's the thing is there's no one community, sub-community within Halo that you should be aiming to please. I'm not saying that 343 should do like the Halo 4 thing and like super widen appeal the game. Not that they would ever do that again. I think that they genuinely have learned their lessons in those places. But when it comes to stuff like the store, 343 is going to play around with it a little bit and try to land on a sweet spot where it makes sense for them, for dev time, for the amount of effort that goes into producing these pieces versus what the community, and by community I do just mean players, are okay with paying for it.
Because for the store, all that really matters is who buys it, how many people buy it, right?
Well, you're right about that, Soul. And I think the thing is, so like I want to call out a comment in here, like Big Mad Mo said in our chat. He says 343 can't win. I think that's true to a lot of extent. To really, I think we're seeing that. But in some regards, though, they've kind of created this environment where it is almost like, I mean, it almost felt like Brian was telling us, oh, well, keep complaining and maybe it'll get better or something. You know, that's how I was reading it.
I mean, they can't say, don't say anything, we're not taking your feedback.
Right. But I think that's, and maybe that's because they jumped this high. Like I said, what, come out with it at $13.99 or something, 12. You know what I'm saying? Like find a middle ground, like going from
this is still technically cheaper than it was when they first released. The full armor sets were like 2,100, 2,200 at some points.
2,200.
Yeah.
But you set a new norm though, right? So you set a new norm where people are expecting it around 10. It comes in.
Oh, anyone expecting a full armar set at 10 has either never played a free-to-play game before,
I get you. I get you, but I think you have to take steps, and especially 343 needs to take steps because they aren't playing with house money right now. They don't have the same sort of bandwidth to make mistakes, I think, and get away with them. So I think they have to take these steps more carefully, and that's really just kind of my general thing on that. The thing I do appreciate, I've said this before, I appreciate the fact that they do interact with the community still, that they do still react to us, but I wish they would put themselves in positions to react less often, if that makes sense. It's like, I still want them to be reactive to things that are obviously mistakes, but it's like, let's see if we can be a little bit more, have a little bit more foresight to like, and scale things up or test things out a little bit better. I mean, this goes all the way back to taking out the skill jumps, right? Take out the skill jumps, or hey, we're going to come out with the sniper. We're going to call it a sniper, playlist, but it's not going to be a sniper playlist. It's like
I can tell this one you're holding.
I think some of this. It's like, I think some of this is right.
Yeah, one job.
What Halo Infinite really needs is a permanent PTR. Like, it's insane to me that like there are all of these changes that 343 obviously wants to make, and obviously that's not the right test bed for everything. Like, I'm definitely not going to spend money in a PTR, but for things like the sniper playlist, like, I think it's cool that 343 wants to sort of expand and make changes.
I think that's fine.
But I don't think it was executed super well with this. Especially not setting the expectation. When you come out and you're just like, hey, snipers, guys.
Well.
100%. It wasn't communicated at all. It was, hey, here's our cool snipers playlist.
They're
and
thinking,
then you boot it up, and
so
it was like,
like maybe
what do you mean, maulers and stalker rifles? Okay.
Like maybe there's a way. Maybe there's a way to proactively communicate better. You know what I'm saying? Like, reactively, they communicate pretty fast, right? But, that's the point. But okay,
you've been trying to say something. What you have?
Sorry.
I think we're still kind of in this mode where, you know, they're playing catch up with all the. I mean, if we saw their change log, I bet it'd be insane, right? Like, it's
right.
It's just it's the same reason we didn't see anything at E3. You know, everybody's like, well, why didn't we? Well, it's like, okay, well, you can't bitch about content and not having X, Y, Z, and then expect them to spend 3 weeks building a vertical slice of whatever it may be, right? Like, there's a give and take that you've got to go along with, and that's just it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it is that they're just swamped. They're behind, like the whole like constant PTR thing. Well, now you're asking them to have a dev instance that they also dedicate engineering resources to all the time. And I get the point, but I don't think they're at the stage where they can afford that. I mean, because I have a dev instance for everything that I do at the lab, but that takes away time for both the endpoints that I'd be managing and modifying, and also from my prod, right? Same thing here. So I think there is a give and take that we've, like, eventually I think they'll probably get to the point, because 76 didn't have a public test server for the longest time. Now they do, right? I think we'll get to that point, but at this point they're just still trying to plug holes and get the ship back afloat, right? And I'm not excusing any of the mistakes that they made. Like, again, it wasn't a big deal to me because I'm not a huge Team Snipes guy. But when I went in to play Team Snipes and I loaded in with a Mauler, I was a wee bit confused.
No, 100%. I think to compound on that too, Daniel, is like, which will probably just bleed into the next topic. Actually, I'm gonna save this for a second. I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while now, and the stuff with the store really led to me wanting to voice the frustration, which is 343 needs to get rid of their rarity system in the game right now. There is, and again, like, it's not something that I hope is going to actually happen or that I expect will happen, but there is no reason for armor that cannot be unlocked in the game to have rarity tied to it. It feels like an artificial way of conflating what perceived value should be tied to it, everything like that. It was one of the things that Brian Gerard kind of got into a little bit of a conversation with somebody on Twitter about, which is just that, like, he called it semantics, as far as like rarity being tied to value, being tied to perception of value. I think that rarity should not be a thing that these armor pieces are tied to at all. I think that it's I do think it's providing a false sense of value perception.
Not gonna lie, I forgot they even had rarity. I'll be honest.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think that most of us that look at the store and like just looks to see if the thing is cool or not is one thing, but like when they're arguing about like, well, we're still experimenting with the store prices, and that $12 versus $17 isn't a ton in the grand scheme of things, but that is a big deal for some people. And when their reason for it is, well, it's a higher rarity than the thing that we charge $12 for, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's in the store. What do you mean?
They're attributing their own value to it.
Like just tie the value.
It's almost NFT concept in some ways, right?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, you're creating like a false to say, Abe, but
you're creating a false like set.
I don't think it's the
buzzword.
Oh, you didn't like it. Okay.
But I know what you mean, though. Like, even
I'm working the algorithm, guys. I'm working
the store. If that kill effect was 500, I'd have bought it by now. And
Yeah.
right
But
now
the fact
it's at
that
7,
it's 7.
and I'm debating. It looks flipping amazing, and I think there's an eagle sound, which is pretty cool. But if it was 5 mana, I would already gotten it. So I know exactly what you mean.
And that's
bad.
kind of like the last point I really wanted to make about the store, about
Yeah.
everything in the game right now. If you give me the opportunity to unlock stuff in the game just by playing the game, which obviously that's what the battle pass is to a point, the free track of the battle pass is anyway. But like very similarly to like what Halo 3 did with like, hey, Hayabusas, did you get all the skulls? Did you complete the game on Legendary? All of that. I think that had the rarity been more tied to challenge based unlocks in the game rather than the store versus the season pass or whatever, I think that perception there would be a little bit different. But to tie it back into the flow of the conversation, I'm sorry if you had something.
No, I think we're going to have another show, and we're going to talk about some things that we are, I think eventually we're going to spend a long time really talking about where some of the opportunities are and how we can get there. At the end of the day, the base, we say this like a lot of different shows. We've said that the base game we freaking love. We play this all the damn time.
Yeah.
I think I'm close to 500 hours now. But we want we want it to be great, and we still see like all the little fringe areas that the foundation around it is still not there. And so we'll talk more about that, I think, in the future. I think we do want to delve into some of the, the fact that it wasn't at E3. And I know that's been a topic among some people here in the community. So are we ready to move on to that? Or do you guys have anything else you want to add to what we were just discussing?
Just one last thing, because I didn't really get to interject earlier, was just that,
sorry about
somebody who's followed our Halo and similar communities for well over a decade now, I think it would be wise to, as much as Nick and others like to joke about Microsoft being a data company, use the data from the store. Use, the Microsoft research surveys that go out to people, all that kind of stuff. Do not listen to our Halo, because that is such a consistently toxic. I mean, I could tell you stories of, and I probably still have the bookmarks saved from comments when Reach came out and how horrible Bungie was because of Reach, or when 3 came out, how horrible it was because XYZ didn't happen. Like, that is a consistent trend among them. So using them as a basis for how you build your game is just, in my opinion, it screws over the rest, or rather the majority of people that play and enjoy games, because those people don't.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, and that goes to kind of what I was saying earlier.
Well, and it surprises me too that we haven't seen any of those surveys come out in a while. That they had going out during MCC. Yeah. Like, it doesn't. Like, they're all hands on deck trying to make sure that the game fucking runs.
You're not supposed to talk about the surveys when you get them.
No, you can say that you've gotten them. You're just not allowed to talk about the contents of them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I've gotten some. Sorry, I got a cat on my lap. Come on, get down, bud.
Dave, one thing I want to say, what's your point of this is something that 343 themselves set up for? I'm not sure how many live service game or in general games that follow consumer feedback you follow, but this is kind of par for the course. Every MMO, Destiny for a while too, you got to kind of listen to player feedback, and so then players get emboldened to like, hey, we're complaining and they're listening, so let's complain more. It's kind of the territory of the game almost.
Well, and you get to a point where like Destiny is right now, where you have developers leaving Twitter because people have gotten to this point where they feel
entitled,
owed, they feel entitled to transparency, where like a developer, not to spiral too off topic, but like a developer on Twitter from Bungie said this Destiny 1 exotic chest piece for a specific class is never coming back, and he got death threats over it. Like, what is that about, man? Like, I thought we were past that kind of shit, especially in like neither here nor there, but like especially in the Destiny community. Like, fucking come on.
People don't want transparency; they want to hear what they want to hear.
No, 100%.
Yeah, they do. All right, I think we covered that pretty good. I do want to move
pretty quickly too. I called that title 343 just can't win, by the way. That topic. I'm gonna keep that.
That's a good name. So Austin, this is the chance where I get to gloat. We did a drop pod. I was right, you were wrong.
Well, technically, Halo wasn't the game showcase. You can fly Pelican, baby.
I'm gonna hold on to that too.
been playing that so much.
I mean, we got the Halo music. What else do you want at a showcase?
Quick
Oh,
show
my
of hands,
goodness.
though, really quick. Who's actually flown the Pelican so far?
Not yet. I have not
Oh,
had a chance.
Okay, well, don't do what
How's
I
it fly?
did. Oh, it's great. It's great. Except there's two different modes. Like it puts you in hover mode, quote unquote, hover mode, where you fly straight up. So like you take your parking brake off, you start like lifting straight up because there's no like takeoff procedure. Like they built a whole new flight model. So it's really cool. But
Interesting.
you just keep going up. And then you're like, why the fuck am I not going forward? I'm going. Well, you have to go into the cockpit view, look for the little toggle, and then flip that so you actually go into jet mode, and then you skyrocket. But
That sounds pretty detailed.
It's
Do you think they
super
like
fun.
collaborated with 343
they-
or something? Like
they went all out. Like it could have easily just been basically, based on like the Dark Star, which is the experimental jet that can do suborbital. They could have just done that, but no, they went all out, and it's fantastic. So
Daniel, elaborate real quick, because I think you might be the only one here that's actually had a chance to fly the thing. So was there anything else that stood out to you about it?
Oh,
real quick
man,
before
I
we move
mean,
on?
yeah, it's a full Pelican in the sense that it's all jet propulsion. So it's like having an electric car, right? There's no torque that you have to worry about building up. Like it just gets up and goes. It goes as soon as you put on the throttle, and it has. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it other than
does it have 8
snake.
pedals and 4 switches?
Yeah. Like if you look in the cockpit, and also the way the propulsion jets move, it's like they kind of move in like a snake. So you can do some really cool maneuvers. But man, it's
That was just a bad red versus blue joke. I didn't think you'd say yes.
yeah. I can't
that's
do
cool.
my Griffin
Are there
voice
6
right
pedals
now,
and only
but
4 directions? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it
I
was.
didn't
My
catch
bad.
it
Not
first.
Is it easy to fly? Well, if you put it on the easy settings, is it pretty basic?
It's sure.
That's why I wanted to go visit. I wanted to go visit my dad's home country because I wanted to go show him in the game. But I haven't done that yet because I haven't.
Just get in the Cessna, and it's pretty easy to fly the Cessna.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not bad. I would say it's not nearly as hard as like the Airbus because it's nowhere near as big. But keep it at like mid speed, and you're good to go. The moment, because it'll let you go like into like the red zone, the danger zone, where you basically have no control. Like it just But yeah, it's if you keep it in mid, you're good to go.
Singing. Okay.
By the way, really quick, we forgot to mention, but Jesse is here. He's just not on camera. He's pretty tired. It's been a very, very long week. He's producing, as you can see, through the gameplay being played.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. So hello, Jesse, behind the scenes.
Hello. I'm actually playing this live, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, we figured. I figured. I guess no one else did.
I assumed it was campaign footage from his review, to be honest.
But yeah, I think it is worth mentioning. Abe and I did do this drop pod right before the showcase went out, or happened rather on Sunday. Where I was pretty sure that we would, if it was going to be there. I do want to make sure that I said if it's there, it'll be this. But I was very confident that we would see it, which is that I assumed that we'd be synced to Tonka at the conference, which is Certain Affinity's long rumored, if you could even say rumored at this point, long rumored 2+ years in development battle royale PvE mode. And Halo wasn't there at all. And some people were not thrilled about that. But I think this comes back to something that I actually meant to say in response to what Daniel said earlier, which is I don't think that this isn't necessarily 1-to-1, right? Because it's not 343 themselves working on this big new mode. It is a different studio. But when you have a game like Halo Infinite, this live service game that we know already, we have a very solid roadmap for what's coming in the future. We can't expect them to take time out of their development schedules dealing with bug fixes and working on new modes and all of this stuff to build a vertical slice of the game. Whether that is, hey, here's a very solid vertical slice of the game, or like here's just our most recent build that's stable. I don't think it's reasonable to expect them to do that with a live service game. It's why when Bungie, for example, shows off their new expansions every year. They have a big, 30-minute to hour-long presentation where it's like, here's all of the cool stuff coming in this expansion, but we're not really going to show you too much. We're just going to talk about it. We'll show you some cinematic snippets, maybe a new weapon type. Right. Like
waxes poetic and all that kind of jazz.
Right. I mean, and like, I love that. And I kind of hope that 343 follows suit with the way that Bungie announces their annual expansion.
For all the complaints are wrong at Bungie, they have possibly the best trailer department in the goddamn industry.
Oh, so no one hypes up their fan base like Bungie does. Like Bungie hypes up people that don't even fucking play those games anymore. I mean, for sure. Yeah, because I do think that we'll see Halo again at some point this year.
Yeah,
I think that's obvious. But as for why I think it wasn't an E3, Tatanka's not quite ready, and I don't think they want to start talking about this cool new mode too early when people are gonna be pissy about it because co-op's not in the game, because Forge isn't in the game yet.
Right.
The community doesn't want bigger and bigger promises made when 343 doesn't seem like they're able to keep them yet. So I think that's probably why they decided to hold off here.
Yep.
Yeah, you finally came around to some of the reasons why I didn't think it was going to be there. So that was good. Anybody else here expecting to see?
I said
okay,
we'd see it. And I know some people will look at their 12-month promise and say, "Oh, does that mean Tatanka isn't coming in 12 months?" No, that's not what that means. Not necessarily. It could mean it, but like for example, even if you compare, say, Halo Infinite itself, they went on record saying, "Hey, we're waiting until we show the campaign until the game's in a better state." Yeah, I think what they used a term like capture ready or something like that, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing something similar for the upcoming things. For example, take the season trailers. These are really good trailers. They're released maybe a week or two before the season comes out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that. I feel like even if it's coming out in like January, not seeing it at June doesn't mean it's not going to be there.
Well, and there's still story content coming with this season that we haven't seen yet. And if they're hardcore tying Tatanka to a future season, be it season 3 in November or season 4, hopefully in February. I'm fairly confident that will happen, but that's not what we're talking about, I guess. But if Tatanka is tied to whatever the next, whatever season it's tied to, I think showing it off and having some like lore stuff spoiled may even be a reason why they're holding off on it. I don't think it's nearly as important to them that's why they're holding it, but it's just another thing to consider. There's a reason why they didn't announce. They didn't talk about season 3. They showed season 1 key art with the Halo Infinite season 3 bubble in the roadmap that they gave us at the end of the conference. But like, if anyone was expecting new key art, a new trailer for season 3, anything like that,
after season 2 launched,
like, a month after a 6-month season just launched, it wasn't going to happen. I was foolish to think so. Abe was right.
Well, and
they came out before the show and started talking about how co-op is fighting in July, and like any announcements they would have made like that, they made before.
Yeah. That's true.
When you look back at it in hindsight, there's actually a lot of reasons that you could point to why it would be beneficial for them to wait, and not just whether they would or not. Like a lot of my prediction was just based on what I thought was going to be good for the game, and we did see like the ironic thing is we saw DLC for Fallout 76, for Elder Scrolls Online, for Sea of Thieves. It's like you got all this other DLC.
But the difference there is that content is considerably more ready than significantly closer to releasing.
Absolutely.
Right. And it was already roadmapped months and years ago. I mean, the pit was shown off.
I mean, God, the pit was a year ago, right?
It was
a trailer for it.
Right. They showed a trailer, and it was supposed to be part of Expeditions, which it is. So it's going to launch, because technically they never gave it a date at that point. So it is going to, like, season 9 just launched 2 days ago.
That was a great time for me to start playing that game.
Yep. And it was shown off, but it's coming out when it's supposed to, but it had way more time to bake. It had everything. I mean, everything's pretty much ready for the most part. Same thing with High Isle. I mean, High Isle has been talked about for 6 months now. So in Sea of Thieves, obviously, that's aside from the great trailer, like content wise, there's not too much there, and they didn't really make a gameplay trailer. So I mean, to some extent, like it makes absolute sense. But yeah, thinking that we'd get a trailer for season 3 of Infinite a month after season 2 launch is odd.
Also, I mean, just really quick, all those games listed, they're really popular games. They're played a lot, but they have a certain, like, I don't use the word stigma. That's a strong word, but you know what I mean? I don't think they want to put Halo in that same group. Not for like a major show. If they want to show Halo at like a major show, they want to show Halo. They're not going to show just a season trailer unless it's like a significantly packed season or something new or big or special, which is why I thought if anything was going to be there, it'd be just Tatanka.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, anything else would have been a letdown, right?
I think that people, the game is in such a rough spot right now, in general, or at least community perception of it, right? I think that showing off a cool new thing would have been cool to some people, and like I said, would have been frustrating to others. Like, these things still aren't in the game yet. Why are you talking about another thing that's happening in who knows how long? It's not, it's not like they announced a new Halo game last year and then they skipped E3 this year. The thing that we were hoping was going to be there, and Soul, it sounds like even you were expecting if it was going to be there, it would have been this. Yeah. Hasn't even been officially announced in any capacity. This could, I'm not, God kill me, but this could still be a year out, it could still be next fall or whatever before we see it. I don't think it will be. But
and that's actually, Austin, going back to like our drop pod, the reason why I believed that it wouldn't show there, it's based on there's a few things going on right now, right? Like you mentioned, right now Halo kind of is probably in the at the bottom part of the curve,
downward trajectory.
Yeah, you're looking at it
on that wave that will hopefully come back up. Yeah.
Also, like like you just play Halo and it's like, no, this is still a really fun game. Like, I just played for the first time.
It's almost more frustrating that the game is so much fun to play.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it's actually similar to Destiny 1's trajectory.
100%. Well, and like, God, I know that I sound like a broken record, and like every time I'm on the podcast, Abe, how does it feel to get shut down, you little shit? I know that I've been saying it for months and months now, but the trajectory for Halo Infinite being so fucking similar to what we had with Destiny,
and almost every other
has me incredibly excited for the future. Like what Bungie has done with that game, and then the franchise as it's continued has been remarkable.
Short of a miracle, honestly.
Well, sure, but like if we get a Halo Infinite 2, I promise I'm not going to hold my breath at launch.
Right.
Well, so one of the things, like one of the logics behind it is that, Tatanka is probably going to be the biggest bullet that Halo Infinite's going to be able to fire. I don't know. I mean, you never say never, but it's hard to see anything like as big as that. That's going to have the kind of impact to bring everybody back to the game that Tatanka will. And there's two different ways you could approach this. You could basically say, hey, we're kind of in the valley right now in terms of like mind share, in terms of reception with our community and all this other stuff. Let's fire our best shot right now, and then try to build off that momentum. But the problem is if you don't have everything else, the rest of your house in order, you're going to lose that momentum, and you're not going to really get the maximum out of that shot. And so, one of the things, and it's been, rumored now, and again, I don't want to sit there and try to pretend like I'm doing a Nick thing, because rumors are rumors. They could be total bullshit, but sometimes I take these things, and here's my damn cat. He's hearing me talking. Oh yeah, you're going to tear my shirt apart. You little asshole.
Take it off.
Woo! Look at that! He ruined another one.
No, so
he does this shit.
I think the point you're trying to make, Abe,
life with that.
Do they just like kind of piddle this out, or do they make it a big grand event, essentially a relaunch of the game
with the house fully built? Because some people feel like season 3, like a reason why there's a long season this season is number one. I think we have to remember the intermission of season 2 is going to be almost like a mini season in some ways. I mean, you're not going to get a new battle pass, but you're going to get Forge, you're going to get co-op. That's going to do some things to bring some people back. I don't think it's going to shoot it way up the charts to like number 3.
I mean, the funny thing is, I think they could have just left this season a 3-month season, but I think given what the community was reacting as at the time, calling this another 6-month season was probably best in the long run, because had they divided it up and had what's coming after the intermission for season 2 being co-op and Forge and all of that, I think people still would have been pissed off about it. I think, Abe, I think you're hitting something right here when you say that season 3 is probably just going to have a substantial amount more content than season 2 did. And that doesn't necessarily mean that if it doesn't, then it's bad. I don't think that's the case at all, especially when the hope is that moving forward, it's just 3-month seasons. I think that what we got with season 2 was reasonable had it been a 3-month season.
Oh yeah, oh for sure.
Well, we've talked again. So like we said even earlier this show, we think the gameplay foundation is great, but the rest of the house is not built right now. The progression needs to be there. You need to have, they need to make sure they can share, do the sharing out of files, and making sure all that's working, like all the community features, the theater
under the hood work, right?
Yeah,
what they should be spending the next 4 months fixing, hopefully.
Daniel, I gotta know what you raised your hand at. I'm so sorry, Abe.
Yeah, I was gonna let Abe finish, but then I immediately want to follow up.
Okay, no, that's cool. But I guess that, so the point is that you want to have all that stuff built. And then I think you relaunch a season 3 with, do kind of a relaunch at that point in time, with everything ready to go. You have the content now, backing that up, right? Like, so that, and we've already heard Staten allude to this, the fact that they want to go, they're going to go slower this time so they can get on track in the future. So I think a lot of this is like pulling back, trying to build that pipeline up so that you don't lose the momentum. So when you do fire the shot, you do fire Tatanka, right, now you can maintain the momentum, because we saw how quickly you can lose it if you don't have everything around.
I mean, just the idea that it fucking hits hard.
Yeah. Right. So go ahead, Daniel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and that, kind of tagging on to what Aarsal was saying earlier. I don't know. I guess I'm just not worried yet, because I have seen. I mean, I was there on 76 day 1, and God, it was terrible. And
oh yeah, no, it's still got a 56 Metacritic, by the way.
It doesn't matter now, because it's not even. I wish people would re-review. But anyway, didn't touch that game for a year and a half. Came back right before Wastelanders, and ever since then it's.
And if you want to get your feet wet,
do
a re-review.
I was gonna say, we're on Metacritic.
Also,
maybe we could boost that score a little bit.
Jesse, that was a fast load screen. What the heck?
Nice.
I don't remember the campaign being that fast either.
Anyway, but and it's not just that. It's Destiny. It's Destiny 2. It's ESO. I mean, you go through the list, and
it's the Division.
Every once in a while, you have an Anthem, right? But in general, the majority of these that are constructed well, that are supported well, and that are made by passionate teams, almost always come back up and and not only rise from the ashes, but soar well above what they originally started at. So I'm not worried yet. I mean,
you read online, so many people saying like it's over, the player base is too down, it's too low.
No, and it's not worry. It's not worry for me. It's just basically saying you want to maximize.
Yes.
You want to maximize whatever that is, like whether it's going to shoot up there to, if it's just going to cap out, at the bottom of the top 10, or whether it can get up into the top, it can play with the big boys for a while. You just want to make sure that you fired your best bullet, that whatever that is, that you got everything else around it to sustain it as well as it can be sustained. Because you're right, it could still be a healthy game regardless 2 years from now, but do you want, it's about going beyond that. So oh my God, is that, I was like wondering why you guys are laughing and then looking at my cat like flashing its asshole at everybody.
I'm gonna Jesus.
Audio
listeners, hope you're enjoying.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that Mort asked a question earlier in the show, which I thought, maybe I would try to touch on it later towards the end, but I think it fits in right here, which was making the game free to play a bad idea? I'm going to definitively say, and I'd love to see if any of you disagree. I doubt you will, but not at all. I think that Halo is dad, as Nick is saying in the chat, right now, but it being free to play gives an insane amount of potential to it when something hits and hits super well. Tatanka might not even necessarily be it, But given the fact that this game is going to be around for a little while, I don't think it'll be 10 years. They never technically said that Halo Infinite will be around for 10 years. Just that it was setting the foundation for the next 10 years. This game is obviously going to be our main Halo game for a while. I think that the game being free to play is only going to benefit it in the long run. Right now, it sucks that population's so low. It sucks that it's falling out of the top 10 in most countries where it's played. But I mean, you know, it's gotta have its resurgence, and I think that it has. And again, none of us disagree with this, but it has so much potential, and it will absolutely pop off if it is given the actual opportunity to.
Right. And my point earlier was games with far worse foundations have come back and soared above what they started out with.
You have Starfield 1, right? No Man's Sky. It came back pretty
yeah.
No, I mean, Soul, I know you're laughing, but I think that's a great.
Absolutely.
Oh, I was laughing at the Starfield comparison. But yeah, No Man's Sky itself, yes, is a great example.
Yeah, 76. Again, one of the best examples of a game that launched abysmally. I could write a book of all the issues. And now it's, you know what?
No, some people will argue that there is more competition today, which I will agree with that. But I think the point you're saying is that you're just, if you get it right, you know, especially as a free-to-play game, you always got a chance because there's not really any risk for people to come back and give you a
right.
I'm not sure what going free-to-play would have really, going pay-to-play would have really fixed in terms of the issues we have. The cosmetic system would be different. The progression system would be different. But in terms of the maps, in terms of the bugs, in terms of desync, the network issues, all that would still be there, which is, by the way, the most important thing.
I would argue, Soul, that it wouldn't have had a bearing on the progression or the cosmetics, given the insane numbers of Game Pass. They still would have wanted to make a consistent revenue, even if they were selling the game.
That's true.
I mean,
let's
not forget the Rex system in Halo 5, which basically for me, I wasn't even interested in
a pretty different time in games.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
Loot boxes were all the craze.
But...
Speaking of revenue,
even Overwatch 2 doesn't have loot boxes.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, they announced battle passes today.
Wow.
Okay. Well, that's better.
Wow. But speaking of revenue, I'm not sure if you guys caught it, but in the NPD or NDP, whatever the flip it is, last month, NPD, it was number 10, meaning the month that season 2 launched.
For Xbox, yeah.
For Xbox, yeah. Well, I mean, what else? Either way, it's number 10.
How dare you? I play on Steam.
That'd be cool, yeah.
And that means enough people bought the season pass, or maybe there's a fancy armor or something, that it hit top 10 most paid games of that month.
Yeah, it was revenue per dollar. So yeah, basically, whether you're talking about people who bought the game, people who bought the pass, people who spent cash in the store, it's still within the top 10 revenue for all Xbox games.
Which is crazy because it was the lowest population overall. And for it to still sit in the top 10 means that, like, the only numbers, guys, that we could really look at, and guys isn't people listening, the only numbers that we can really look at are Steam database numbers. Nothing else is an accurate representation.
Numbers.
Because even if you're looking at the top 10 most played games on Xbox, depending on what's released that month, it's going to significantly affect that sort of scale. It could be a total population in that top 10 games of 100,000 at any given time. But if some banger games come out that month or whatever, or in the last 2 months, then it's going to be 1 million people playing.
We know bangers. I thought
the only
Sony had
banger you eat. Jesus.
I thought Sony had that was their word. You know, banger. You're only allowed to.
No, that's a gem. I think.
Sorry, I'm just Twitter. Okay, so like guys, so I guess we'll wait and see. You know, if season 3 ends up being the relaunch that I think is people are starting to expect now, and if it is, I think it's not going to be just a few maps. I think we're going to see some other stuff.
We already know there's sandbox changes coming, which means more weapons, vehicles.
Sandbox.
Yeah, there it is.
We need that.
And it's probably more than 2,000 hours away, but One day I'll put that in now.
Earlier,
That
Abe
gives-
commented on how many hours, like
500 hours.
500 or whatever. And
Almost. I think like
I thought
450.
Daniel was gonna roll his eyes so fucking hard his head was gonna explode. Like Abe just needs to like stroke his hours peeing on.
I have to throw it out there because you guys think I'm like old man yelling at the clouds. Hey, I play this game more than than most.
Definitely need to troubleshoot your internet a bit more, though, man. I'm telling you.
I feel like I've earned the right to yell at the clouds once in a while with 343. So I don't know. It's not like I'm not like some content creators that spend more time bitching about it than they actually do playing the game. I do play about it, then I bitch
like
about
most
it.
But okay, so we didn't see it E3. ONL is next up, August. Do you think we'll see Halo there? Any form of Halo?
In August?
What they're gonna do the co-op. They're gonna do something for co-op and Forge, right?
They'll drop trailers just like they do for their seasonal content, but that won't be on a press conference sort of.
No.
I mean specifically, when's the next time Halo's gonna be on the show floor, or on the show?
When's Xbox gonna give Halo like screen time?
Well, I mean, it could be ONL, it could be TGA. When's the next time we see Halo at an event? It'll be next year. Yeah.
E3
yeah,
the earliest.
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it's going to
How
be
are you talking about in chat, Mr. M?
Revita.
Rate Revita out of 27.
Revita.
Is this Gran Turismo 7?
Is Revita a car? Anyways, yeah, the next on the show, campaign content probably, right? Probably be E3 next year. And yeah, I'm still calling it E3.
Yeah, well, we might actually get E3 next year.
Yeah, ESA said that
that's true.
E3 next year. Supposedly.
And hey, maybe they'll have a physical event and some of us could go. That'd be really awesome. Actually meet in person. That'd be nice.
Beyond LA.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's so I think that covers that one. Now I think we have some community questions. Did you guys anything by the way?
I think that we should probably just really quickly touch on the drop pod. We got our first drop pod, not Xboxera show drop pod, but Halo drop pod.
We named ours first, by the way, in case somebody wonders.
Hilariously, like 2 days before it happened.
And we refused to change.
The views went up too.
Bananas. But yeah, I mean, I think that the coolest thing that they've done, the most obvious thing for me, as I haven't played a ton since it was released, obviously I think the ranking stuff is interesting. You have to basically play with friends that are around your same skill level if you want to play ranked. New loading screen is cool. Season 2 art, solid. I love not looking at that fucking ravine anymore.
Though, new complaint if they could.
The biggest thing for me was load times. My load times weren't bad, right? I'm playing on a pretty powerful PC. I wasn't really waiting too long for anything anyway. But the interesting thing was that the patch notes mentioned that if you have higher end hardware, the change would be less noticeable. The improvement would be less noticeable. 100% makes sense. I 100% noticed a massive change. I'm not waiting for anything. My battle pass is instantaneous. All of my customization. So
even like the
armor haul, the vehicles, the weapon, whatever haul, whatever. It's all instant, and it's like kind of jarring how fast it loads. It's almost like the jump from like previous gen consoles to these consoles, where it's like people are like, I don't have time to look at Twitter anime.
I can't make a sandwich anymore.
Right. I wish I could fucking do something. I hate these short load times. The coolest thing was I was talking to Soul about it earlier. We played a little Halo before the show went live. I was talking to Soul about it, and in real time we loaded into a game, and like loading screen to us playing was like maybe, I'm not even exaggerating, maybe 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
I
was like, what the
kind of crazy.
That's awesome.
And like it didn't even do that thing where it's like you're in there and it's like showing this part of the map and that part of the map, and it's just like, come on, just let me play the damn thing. It was just boom, right away.
Well, and all these little things, like I looked at this week's update, and it does, there's nothing that's exciting, right? Like you read through it, it's like, okay, there's nothing to talk about. But all these little things will start to add up. And this is part of what I'm talking about. It's a lot of little things that become a bigger sum than the parts. And just seeing these little improvements across the board is nice. The matchmaking is something that's really interesting to me because I have noticed going from Halo 5 to Infinite, that the matchmaking doesn't seem to be as good in the over 2,000 hours that I played in Halo.
God damn it! I'm gonna start taking bets before the show starts, Abe.
Yeah, bingo card. Bingo. Like I had like a nearly 50-50, because I play randoms a lot. I played almost all in ranked, and it was like almost 50-50. They did a really good job. I don't know what they changed, but it does seem like it gets a lot. Yeah, and in Halo 5, the matchmaking in that seemed like it was a lot better. And I don't think it's the sandbox, right? I don't think it's the any changes to that make it any less consistent. I think there's something else behind the scenes that they did. And so I got all my bingo card things out of the way.
I definitely don't have the same experience. That's actually one thing I've explicitly noticed with my time with Infinite is in like the 500 or something, 600 matches. I haven't played. I played maybe like a third of the matches Abe has, by the way. Like, holy crap. We were playing today. He had the battle pass completed. And I'm like, what? Yeah. I know for a fact he doesn't really focus on challenges. So there's no way that he sat there and, I was like, what?
I got my big shoulder pads and everything. I got the little.
First, we load in. I'm like, man, who's this guy who bought the battle pass? Who is this spending money on this thing? And I check. I'm like, wait, this is.
No, I don't spend anything extra more than the $10 or the cheap version.
Yep.
So.
But at least in my experiences, it's rare for me to play a match where I either don't win or lose by like 5-6 points.
Okay.
Especially solo play.
My connections are incredibly inconsistent. I'll have games where it feels like I'm playing LAN. Like it feels so sharp and so crisp. And,
I think we're talking about strictly the matchmaking quality in terms of like the
balance
that you're being matched.
The balance,
with, right?
yeah.
Oh,
right.
I apologize. I missed that. No, I feel like and even that I would say is inconsistent. I'd say probably more often than not, I'm getting pretty close matches, but it's not rare for me to have multiple games in a night, like multiple. I'd say a third of the games that I play where I just stomp an enemy team, and it could be because I'm playing with like Abe every once in a while, and it brings my MMR down a little bit. But who knows?
Yeah. Wait, really? His MMR is lower than yours?
Yeah.
Wow. So right now we were playing.
Abe hits his shots more consistently,
dude.
But I'm better at the game.
I'm seconding that.
I'm
seconding that.
I think we're gonna have to play a little 1v1. Okay. By the way, I'm watching Jesse, and I'm looking forward to doing some co-op here.
Dude,
one thing,
really quick, I was gonna say, per Aarsal's experience, I think mine has gotten better with season 2. But I definitely agreed with Abe that like the first season, especially, I'd get matches where I stomped the crap out of the team, and then the next one it's just like I'm the only one decent on my team.
Are these pro players right now? Like,
no, those are hunters. Oh, right. Sorry.
Jesus, everybody's behind today.
We're spiraling out of control, guys.
Where's the
like we said, it's E3 week.
I thought he was joking.
No, man. And then I think I caught my own joke because I was a little confused myself. I'm like, wait, what was the question?
Ursula, you should have just sold it off like, I was kidding.
God.
Anyway, continue, Daniel.
No, I'm good.
Inconsistent matches more so in season 1.
But you know what? You're right though. I haven't played enough of Halo 5. Maybe Halo 5 was just so much better that like this feels worse.
Just the matchmaking was. That's all.
That's what I meant.
So the one thing I'll say this though, I think my theory. This is a theory, and I don't have any way to verify it right now. But the reason is Halo 5 was a pay game. I think you had a lot less of the, and back then you had to pay for Xbox Live.
Smurfs?
And that was the only, you had a lot less of the smurfing, that type of stuff going on. Yeah. So the biggest change that I think people could be excited about with this update, if you have experienced some matchmaking inconsistencies, is that now people have to do all the ranking up in the casual playlist.
You have to play 25 games before you're allowed.
So that's a lot of work to smurf, right? That's
yes.
So
yes.
So with a free to play
unfortunately
game,
though, it's retroactive. Like if you've already played games, then you're fine. Which means that everyone that was being an asshole in this game is just going to continue to be an asshole. You just have to hope that 343 catches them and bans them, I guess.
Well, I think the thing though is the smurfing aspect, right? Because after a certain time, once you've smurfed and now you just start wasting everybody or you whatever.
For sure.
You know, you get these people that they jump in the games and then they don't play. They don't even try for like 10. So they're absolutely doing nothing. And then they get their ranking and then they just go just annihilate everybody until they rank way up. And so when you do this and you force them to have to play 25 games in the non-ranked in the social, then it's just a lot of work for them. So they can go spin off as many counts as they want, but they're going to have to go through a lot more games in order to have the enjoyment of smashing, people, pods. So, I do think that it is something that I think that's the reason why I feel some of the inconsistencies is because you get a lot more people playing the smurfing game in a free-to-play game.
The other aspect they address too, right? Which is that now you can't be like flipping Onyx and queue with like a silver. So you get lowered thing, right?
Well, and that's the other thing too. Yeah. Or you get one Smurf.
I know for a fact that they climb up to like 2200 by playing with like a gold the entire time.
It is fun to play with golds,
but not ranked, Okay, well, I see how it is. I'm not a gold. I climbed to diamond in season 1. Okay, I just haven't played enough ranked in season 2 yet.
Are you just a diamond locally with that shitty ISP that you have, Abe? What's the situation?
Yeah, Abe has the benefit because all his damn desync homies just like teleporting around the game every time.
Shit.
Yeah, they think I'm a Promethea, and I brought those back. All right, guys. So let's move on. I think we covered a lot of that stuff. So let's move on now because we're at an hour and a half. So much for a short show.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know why you guys ever think it's going to be short. There's always a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to the community questions. Who's got those teed up?
I have them. Let's start with the first one with good old Collingwood. Hello, Halo followers. A different question from the kinds I have been asking before. Recently, fan conventions are returning to convention centers and hotels in larger numbers, and fans are flocking to these cons in increasing numbers, for better or for worse. One thing I've been seeing is that many people are dressing up in Spartan armor. It's possibly due to the Halo TV show. Cosplayers are one of the most impressive group of fandoms, but fandom exists in things like original videos, fan fictions, and art. So I would like to ask you had made a Halo team, what the most impressive or entertaining piece of fan expression they've experienced. Okay, interesting question. Wasn't sure where I was going, to be honest.
My favorite content creator made anything when it comes to Halo is either like the first 5 seasons of Red vs. Blue or Video Game Donkey's Halo videos.
Oh god, I love those. I love those.
They absolutely kill me. My buddies and I still scream Pelican at each other. Like those videos are so funny. Sergeant Dude, like it's all so good. It would either be Donkey's Halo videos or it's Red vs. Blue. I was obsessed with Rooster Teeth growing up. Which I know is funny. But Red vs. Blue is from 2002, so
I mean it's our age group. It's
right. Bleep bloop. Like Bernie Burns was a hero of mine. Like I went to the college that I went to because Bernie Burns went to that college. Like I did all of that. Like I built a lot of my life off of being a Rooster Teeth fan, of being a Red vs. Blue fan. And it's weird to see what that show is now. And that Bernie Burns has left the company and the country. He now lives in the UK in a little shack with his wife and kids.
Yeah.
How about you, Sol? Any?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Red vs. Blue, but I won't. But I will say one thing. There's this moment. What season was it? Like 4 or 5 or something, where it switches to full motion video or whatever the heck the term is, and it blew my mind.
I think it was season 9, Revelations. I think it was.
No. When it happens in the original season, not like the whole season based on it. It was when they're driving the Warthog.
Yeah. It was the Warthog that drives through the wall in.
Yeah. That was always
season 9. Halo 3, yeah.
But you're right, actually. But if I had to pick a Halo content, I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen these. I think there were like 2 or 3 at the time. But I'm thinking like 2007, 2006, there was this trend on YouTube called Music Video Hell or something like that. And AMV Hell is what it was. And it was like they just took like short little clips and they put different music in the back. And it wasn't just like good editing. It was just funny comedy stuff. And someone made one for Halo. I think they made 2 or 3. And God, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with them. HMV Hells, I think they called it, and it was awesome. You guys should check it out. Actually, maybe don't. It might not have aged well. I can't remember, but it was really fun at the time.
Hold me to that. Oh God, I just said it.
Whew.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Oh
What
yeah.
about you, bud?
Daniel.
I mean,
Yeah.
Red versus Blue is what I was gonna say. It's like the only. I mean, it's the only one that I consistently watch. Like I have it on DVD.
Yeah.
I have like the first
I watched it on Netflix when it showed up
Same.
on
I
there.
went to RTX the first 5 years that it existed. I got a
man.
media pass to RTX one year when I was running a different Halo podcast back in 2014.
Man, college, we used to get drunk and quote like blue spider, you know, shit like that all the time.
Hey Donut, they already have a color for Latest Red. It's pink.
Oh man.
Like
Yeah, so-
I still can't listen to anyone say something along the lines of like, you ever wonder why we're here?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's as like familiar to me as like the Wilhelm scream is, right? Like it's just ingrained. So much of that show is ingrained in my brain. And like, to be fair, if you haven't watched the earlier seasons already, don't. They
It's
haven't
kinda tough to
aged
get
very
into.
well.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer because like some of my favorite and most quoted lines are some of the most
blue spider.
You killed
problematic
Church,
lines.
You killed
Yeah,
Church.
yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that line.
The equivalent of you killed Kenny.
Oh,
I even enjoyed some of the progression that show took, where Church wasn't a ghost; he was an AI the whole time.
Dude, I love that.
and
And his
like-
line at the end, I'm not an
Where he's
AI.
like, I'm not an AI,
Yep.
I'm a motherfucking ghost.
God. I still say EMP. To this day, I cannot call it an EMP. I'm like, oh, you mean the EMP,
it's so
right?
funny. I like one of my favorite scenes in any comedic material ever is Caboose throwing a spike grenade
Yes.
at the barricade where he and
Oh
Washington
my
are crouched
God.
behind. And he was
That-
like, "It's not my fault. Somebody put a wall in my way." Like,
That was the worst throw
so
I've
much of that
ever
show
seen.
is so good. I did stand-up comedy where Shannon McCormick, the voice of Washington, used to run a weekly fucking like
That's cool.
entertainment show. It was amazing. I got to hang out with those guys so many times, and I'm just like name dropping super hard. Like, watch me stroke my ego real quick, guys. I promise I've done stuff before I joined Xbox
This
Era.
is so inappropriate on camera. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Audio listeners, don't watch. I'm fully nude right now. Maybe some clicks.
Oh my goodness. Oh, all right. Pivot.
Hey,
What
moving
about you, Abe? What Halo content have you enjoyed, or is one that stands out to you?
Well, since everybody took the obvious one, the Red
Yeah.
versus,
Yeah.
I'll say the type of content, like the type of videos, and the thing that always kind of stuck in my mind with as being a old man yelling at the clouds Halo guy is those old time physics videos. Remember like those back in the day, where you make the war
Oh, dude,
the
like
warthog
CM Near's
fly,
Halo tricks.
Oh my God.
So cool.
Yeah, just seeing stuff like that, like people just screwing around with the sandbox and just doing crazy things.
Here we see the Newtonian physics with 5.34 acceleration mass over. Yeah, that's the type of
One
shit
of my favorite ones of those was in Halo 3. You could stand in a dumpster and punch it enough that you could use it to fly around in. Like,
I
I've seen
remember
videos
that.
of that. I've seen.
Yeah,
it's CM Near's Halo tricks. Like, homie, you probably watched dozens of his videos and never realized who it was or whatever. But like, holy shit! Like, some of that stuff. It's weird. I feel like we're getting like super nostalgic about all of this, or at least I am.
It's funny because I've never heard of any of this.
Red versus Blue, you've heard of, I'm sure.
I've heard of it. I've never watched a single one.
Oh my
Damn.
god.
Mhm.
Jesse, I'll lend you my
Jesse.
DVD.
Yeah.
Hello.
We got Netflix. at
Or
home.
you could just watch it on YouTube.
I've tried watching it.
But-
It wasn't for me.
It's tough to get into these days, but
I'm
you need to
pretty
watch
old,
at
though.
least 2 seasons, in my
I'm a
opinion.
lot
if you
older
ever
than
want.
all of you, aren't I? I'm turning 40 in a couple months, so
You're not that much
I
older
think it was a
than me.
little. Yeah,
You're younger
I'm much
than
more
me.
mature than you.
That could be.
But
I
Abe,
don't-
speaking of
I
your
tried
physics,
growing up. It was a difficult
Yeah.
week. What were you saying?
I said speaking of physics video, I downloaded that video off of LimeWire. I think at the time. Might have been because all I know is I got viruses, I think 2-3 times trying to download it. I downloaded it and I'm like, wait,
LimeWire and viruses. You're really bringing back the
I have
nostalgia
another
now.
one. James at War's Blame It on Halo 3 music video, which was a spoof of Akon's Blame It on Me.
Oh my god.
Kills me.
God. There's so much fan content. Machinima, right? These are the Machinima days of when Halo was carrying the whole brand.
We got to put together a video, but so we can
Collage.
move forward with the rest of these.
Yeah. Jesse, do you have anything? Any Halo fan content? That
I can't think of anything.
He's too mature. He's too mature.
Midblitz is the answer.
He's like,
Gen Z.
My own. I go
jacket.
back and I watch my own Twitch streams because I am an incredible.
Jesse's like, actually, last year,
That
my
sounds
Halo
about
Master
right.
Chief Collection review.
Yeah, that was my biggest video on the site. It had, for some reason, that one started, got nothing, and then like 2 months in, it just started going up, and it's like 27K now.
You should.
But then the Cuphead one just, I don't know. That's so
I don't know what's happening. You should definitely watch the Donkey Halo videos. I don't like a lot of his videos. He's a bit of an idiot, but his Halo videos are so
It's all a bit.
not a bit, but his Halo videos are so good.
I've seen a couple of him. I'll just say Donkey because that's probably the only one I can remember watching.
Okay, nice.
Okay. All right.
Fair.
Let's move forward, guys. We're running low.
Next question by Jesse
Brother.
Got you.
Jesse brother.
But I'm not Nick. So Travis Norris or Patrick Payne, XboxEra patrons. Greetings, Spartaneers. After seeing Starfield, it brought the old thought to my head about a Halo RPG. My question for you all is, if they ever did make one, what sort of RPG would you like it to be? Would you like something like a Bethesda, BioWare, CD Projekt Red style Western RPG, or something more turn-based like a JRPG or Wasteland? Or maybe an action RPG, Twin Six style, or something I'm not even thinking of? And would you want your protagonist to be a Spartan, a human, or a Covenant alien race? Geralt. I don't get
This
that.
is so easy.
Easy.
I'll let you guys go. Yeah.
Definitely like a blend of BioWare and Bethesda for me.
Bethesdaware.
Along with like Saber Flight between planets, maybe, I don't care. But you're playing
No in atmosphere flying though from outer space, so it's garbage.
couldn't give a shit less.
You know,
But
we don't
it's
need
the one
another
thing that's
copy of No
really-
Man's. We don't need another copy of
No Man's
Sky.
Sky, but when they're loading in No Man's Sky, it's probably about the amount of density that you get in like a tree in
I mean,
Starfield.
the problem with that argument is like,
Oh, wait, we're going out track. We're going out.
No Man's Sky.
I mean,
Same thing. No, it's not. Anywho, yeah, that's my answer. But that's the where RPG style.
I would say I like them. I'm sorry. I like Gears Tactics enough where I would like to see because that would be smaller and easier for them to do.
That's fair.
Like a Gears Tactics version of Halo. I'm not like most. I don't want to play as ODSTs or humans. I'd rather be big ass elites or brutes or Spartans because they're the strongest and make me the best. But yeah, the dream is obviously the Mass Effect, Mass Effect 3 style or Mass Effect Andromeda style combat, but with a more fleshed out story than Andromeda got to have because of how they had to reboot.
Would you want it to be third person, not first person?
Totally.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
For an RPG, yeah.
I absolutely should need
Both, really.
a Mass Effect game. Number one, there's not that much competition in that area anymore.
Yeah.
Really since Mass Effect 3. What's the last
Andromeda.
great?
Andromeda.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That was
Andromeda has incredible gameplay. It's just they had to quickly cobble a story together because they were trying to do
Man,
the
MMO.
Starfield.
I feel bad for that game's
Yeah.
release.
It had no soul.
The next thing
no
after
face textures
Mass
either.
Effect is going to be the next Mass Effect, really.
Well, that's the thing. Like it just something along those lines, especially with Halo's lore, and what made the Mass Effect original series was the storytelling, right? So the characters, the storytelling, and you just you build up some Spartans. You can even they can mix in some elites in there, and you could basically go full on Mass Effect, but in Halo. That's the easy one. That's the easy one, but it's expensive, and it's probably not going to happen.
Austin's shaking his head.
you were all fucking wrong. That's why.
Huh.
The real answer is a turn-based JRPG
Huh?
that takes place in the Forerunner era. That is Forerunner characters during the Forerunner human conflict 100,000 plus years ago. I am joking a little bit.
Wait, Halo Star Ocean? Like,
Yeah, right.
Really, I'd love to see like Bethesda Mass Effect style RPG, but in that time period. I think that is by far the most interesting unexplored area of Halo's lore. Just funny, given that we got 3 massive novels at the tail end of that time period. However, I would love to have a party of characters that are all Forerunner. Cool. Maybe 1 or 2 humans, kind of expand the rule set there a little bit. There was one point in time where the Forerunners and humans didn't hate each other. Now, of course, that was long before the war, long before the war. But I love the idea that that it would be you would interact with precursors, and you would interact with as hyper advanced humanity that has this sort of like primitive layer to it as well in its presentation. I think that all of that is incredibly fascinating. I would love to see something like that.
I've thought of one more before Soul gets to go. Sorry, Soul. I want to play a monitor on a Halo, and it's like a simulator that
that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Like
Halo Tycoon or something.
Like I run the entire ring.
That'd be rad.
Just release the flood in this part. Just isolate it again.
Yeah.
My answer is not Bethesda Mass Effect, but also probably just as boring. I want SWTOR, but Halo. Star Wars: The Old Republic, like a full-on MMO.
So this is cool. My Soulblazerz moment, which is I've never played KOTOR.
SWTOR, but yeah.
So an MMO then?
Yeah, specifically an MMO. With an expanding story, with different classes, with keep moving forward. Because SWTOR, I've played it a bit, but it had surprisingly good single-player story content for an MMO.
Interesting.
Also, Halo Raid, sign me up, bro. Like, I'm in. In fact, hey, get rid of World of Warcraft. Just make a Halo MMO instead. You're getting the team, right?
Yikes!
If they're gonna spend that money, just make a Mass Effect type game. All right, all right. Did everybody get their take?
MMO is not the question. Is an RPG.
You guys don't even follow directions. Since we're just not even reading.
RPG? Those are RPGs.
Also, none of this action combat BS. No, it's gonna be tab target based.
Yeah. All right. Let's
one last question from Mort.
One last 3 questions.
28. 3 questions.
Part
Greetings and salutations. 3 questions for me this time. Thank you, Mort. Now that the Xbox Showcase is behind us, which trailer is the one that you have gone back and rewatched the most?
Starfield.
I watched the whole show,
but more so because it was probably the thing that I was the most critical about from the show. Not because I'm not interested in it or that I'm worried about it or anything like that. Just because it's a game that I expect greatness from, and a game that I think will be fantastic, but a game whose presentation I wasn't super thrilled about. So I wanted to go back through and look at it and pour over all of the Bethesda-iness of it. I also kind of frame by frame some of the customization and like character building stuff because I'm obsessed with that stuff in Elder Scrolls games, or Bethesda games. Looking forward to be a fat chef in Starfield.
Daniel.
No, you, Daniel.
I'll go. I ended up going through all of the new ones that we haven't really heard of, so I could find out who was publishing them, so I could try and get review codes. And I've got us on the list for like 4 or 5 so far.
Nice.
I think for me it was a combination of Starfield, Forza, and Benedict Fox. Because Forza, obviously the technology. I mean, I'm a huge Forza nut anyway, so I was always going to be excited about that. But the engine
and the way they did that one,
it's incredible. One shot. And if you watch the Forza Monthly today, they talked about all the work that went into doing a live gameplay one shot, no replay mode. It was really impressive. But then Starfield, for all the obvious reasons, I'm super stoked about it. I've also was actually, as somebody who's played 2,000 hours of 76, and seeing how that engine, has, in a lot of ways, 76 is the culmination of all the best parts of the original creation engine. Seeing the huge jumps with Starfield, to me, were massive. And Benedict Fox, because it's just, there were tons of games that were kind of like eye-catching and unique in that showcase, but that one really stood out because it's a period piece that's set in this like cosmic horror Lovecraftian Albania, and it ticks all the right boxes for me.
It's a Metroidvania. It's probably going to play a little bit like Ori in terms of game design and progression and stuff.
Or like a Metroidvania.
Or Castlevania.
Sorry.
Screw you guys. I'm going.
And we're gonna have a heavyweight knockout fight between John and Nick because they are both desperate to review it.
I'm sure that looked incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, I lied, Saul. I'm sorry. You go ahead, buddy.
No. Go ahead.
I think the trailer that I watched the most just to like watch a trailer was probably High on Life. Super fucking excited about that game, and one that John immediately was like, all right, put me down for the review for that. And I was like, fuck you, dude. No way. Like, homie, you get your artsy fartsy games, go play The Artful Escape. Go play fucking Stanley Parable again.
I want my 40, man.
I wanna play my Justin Roiland game, please. Thanks.
Yeah. That there's a few of them, and I kept going. I probably went through like there's 5 or 6 that I watched a bunch of times. The one you guys didn't mention though, so I'll just say that one.
Oh, hold on. Soul hasn't. I mean, unless you
no, man, go away.
Go away.
Yeah, I might as well just hurry up so I can get the hell out of here. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the one you guys didn't mention though right now was Redfall. So obviously Starfield's the easy one. In Forza and all, and ones you guys mentioned. But I think for that one, it wasn't just on the graphics. I wanted to go through and see. I'm a fan of the Arcane Sandbox and initially when I was watching it, I thought it was like way too much shooter, so I went back and I kept looking for those elements. I did see more of them. Like if you really, they don't spend too much time on them, but they do show enough of it that you go, okay, yeah, it's in there. It's just
you look at the leaks. There's a lot of it's one of their games, but you can play it with other people now, and lots of focus on loot.
Yeah, the co-op abilities just alone were
like the double jump. That was sick.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much possibility there. I agree.
I really hope they revert the co-op progress is only made by the person hosting the game. I really hope that's something that they do change in the future.
The thing that Saints Row is doing, which I think is the perfect compromise, is it'll tick that you've done something, and when you get to that in your own game, you can then have the option to skip it if you want.
That's
I think that's like that good middle ground. Yeah, so
that's a good one.
I hope that they've got time. You never know.
Yeah. Personally, I have rarely watched the trailers themselves. When I watch the entire show again. So I'm like, my guilty pleasures reaction videos. I think I've probably seen like 12 or 13 different reactions for this thing. Probably more, to be honest. So by definition, Redfall, because that's the first one that's shown. But in terms of the trailer I'm most interested in, probably Minecraft Legends. Like, even like the 12 or 15 seconds of gameplay we got, I'm like, okay, that reminds me of like Dragon Quest Builders. That reminds me of this. I want to play this. Holy crap.
Did you watch the Tuesday shows?
I did.
Breakdown? Yeah. I haven't watched it myself, but if it was anything like what they did for High on Life, then I'd love to go back and watch that because I think Minecraft Legends looks solid.
Wait, Tuesday talked about Minecraft Legends?
No, they talked about High on Life.
They had a Minecraft Legends.
I don't remember.
It wasn't as in, yeah.
I didn't remember that either. So.
It wasn't super in depth. He talked about how they had actually shown like the Badger shirt like 5 years ago.
Yes. Now I remember now. Yeah. It was nothing. There's nothing substantial in there, really.
Oh, though we did get yelled at for talking over.
I did. I saw the chat, and I heard the comment, and I'm like, yeah, but come on.
Yeah, I mean that's what the co-streams are. You're talking over.
Okay, question number 2 from Mort. We've already answered this basically, but were you surprised that the next 12 months have nothing new big from Halo coming? We don't know that technically. When do you think we'll get campaign DLC and Tatanka?
Co-op and Forge beta are big. I mean, I know he's a campaign guy, so he wants actual campaign expansion. I don't think that's close. I think that would
fall
be
next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tatanka, summer next year. Boom. Those are my 2 dates.
I'd say spring.
First half next year, let me say. How about that? H1 2023. Do you want us to answer that and move on to question 3?
No, I think it's
I think
yeah.
campaign content is further out than we want it to be. a good bit further out. I don't think it's next year. I think Tatanka is sooner than we think it is.
I think if we get anything campaign, it's going to be our multiplayer guy and not Chief. I think anything Chief related is.
Oh yeah, that I hope that is the case.
You don't think 2 years is enough to make another Chief campaign?
Well, depending on how much they cut out, because like there's definitely stuff they'd shown that wasn't in like
right.
the goddamn.
I think it depends too.
Guy
Like
I can't think of
what they're going to deliver. Is it going to be like is the expectation set for infinite campaign expansion DLC, whatever you want to call it, linear levels only, or are they giving us another little hub to add on to the open world? I think it depends. If we're going off of like the complete lack of information that we have, then I think 2 years is reasonable. But given that I imagine that they're hiring for a lot of those positions right now, and we know that they're hiring for a lot of campaign positions right now, I think that it's probably further out than next fall.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a full-blown, like a full-blown campaign add-on is probably further out. It's at least 2 years. But the one thing, what did I miss?
The big piece of Halo content that's coming in the next 12 months is Soul's multiplayer review.
This one might be a re-review season 3. I'm just saying.
Yeah. We definitely we'll talk about that later. But the one thing that nobody really has mentioned, and I think it's a possibility, if you play the campaign, you explore the outer sides of it, you can see there was a lot of hooks in there, probably a lot of cuts that were made, right? When they released what they released last year. And so this is what I'd like to see. When they release Tatanka, whenever that is, sometime in 2023, that they also come back with a re-release of the campaign with some touch-ups, because we already know we're looking at the Forge, and you can already see people were throwing snow and fragmentation. So you can throw some snow and some mountains. You can probably even open up some little areas here and there, and maybe throw some more enemies on there for if you got a next-gen console. In some areas, I think they could do a kind of like a
director's cut.
That'd be interesting.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we're way more likely to get that kind of stuff from a whole new hub area. I don't think that they'll change what's already there.
So something like that, something that makes it fresh, that people want to go back and replay replay that campaign. I mean, we even seen it with and again, I didn't play the whole thing, so I can't compare, but I read the reviews, like the Personas, like when they did Persona Royal, they did a lot of different things to it, right? So something along those lines that just
made it 130 hours longer.
Right.
Boy,
so
I'm not looking forward to reviewing
30 hours longer, I think, but yeah.
So
50.
So something along those lines. You add stuff that makes it a little bit longer, makes it a little bit more fleshed out, that improves certain aspects, that tweaks some of the graphics, all that stuff. So I think they could do that. But I do agree with you guys that a full-fledged campaign is probably not happening in the next 12 months. So
I don't think it's the next 12 months, but I do think maybe sometime late next year, because we don't know.
I think realistically we'd see it in spring of 2024.
I mean, the thing is, we just don't know what the composition of the campaign team is, because we know they have a campaign team and PvP.
Right.
So not knowing what that composition is at this point, I don't know if we could definitively say one or the other.
Or if they're going to keep moving people back and forth, right? Like, if that's the thing, I think right now, one of the handcuffs that Bungie and 343 always had is that they have big expectations of both campaign and multiplayer at the same time.
Yeah.
I think if you can stagger those, like that's why I said, like, do a touch up of the campaign so that you have something that feels fresh. And then going forward, you have a staggered campaign versus big moments in multiplayer, and that way you can move your teams back and forth and focus on one and then the other.
So you're saying they should remake the campaign, because it hasn't been, it's been long enough, right, since the game released. It's been kind of standard these days.
Standards, sure.
They'll call this one the Halo Infinite remake, and then in a couple of years we'll get Halo Infinite Part 1.
Halo Infinite, more Infinite.
The third and final question of Mort is, which was the best, Sarah Bond's dress or Todd Howard's leather jacket presentation +1? Hugs, Mort.
Dress, not even close. The jacket's just a try hard old man thing. That was a cool dress.
I'm also going to say dress. I'm not going to insult the jacket because the jacket was pretty cool. But that dress was something else.
As a lover of leather jackets, I will never say such terrible things. But I do think that, as Catherine called it, the Canadian wedding dress looked amazing.
I loved the dress. I think the dress absolutely wins. I made a joke during the presentation no one bid on. I said, man, I love this Mario dress she's wearing.
I heard that joke when I was watching the reaction.
Fucking took the bait for it. But it is what it is. I think the dress absolutely kicks Todd Howard's like midlife crisis jacket out of the water. But, you know, he put it on and then went and got in his fucking Stingray and drove off and lived his best life or whatever.
I mean, like he was. That's why the leather jacket stands out to me. At least the dress made sense. You know, the leather jacket indoors. I mean, at least he did put on the sunglasses to go with it. But I mean, it absolutely.
That being said, I would have been disappointed if he hadn't worn one. It's like a part of his character now.
Yeah, no, the leather jacket right now is more of a thing. So they're both cool. All right.
I think that's the last question. Yeah, pretty good questions.
Yeah, another quick show. Wow, you were right on the money again.
We did it. We we were under 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours. So.
Guys, this has been.
Go ahead. It's gonna be quick. I did think this was gonna be. We only had like 3 topics, but I feel like our conversation flowed well. So I'm not complaining.
Everybody was so mesmerized by my gameplay. Couldn't stop watching.
We're trying. So everybody in the chat and who's listening, we're trying to get more efficient and
a good conversation is a good conversation. Abe's trying to get efficient. The rest of us just like talking.
I guess if I just shut up, the show would be over 30 minutes.
Halfway through this show, I realized, you know what? It's okay. I don't need to do too well on my exam tomorrow. It's okay. Let's keep going.
I'm just sorry. So
no. I'm not joking. This was great. I had a lot of fun.
It was good intentions. You know what they say though. Anyway,
guys, this has been the 53rd episode. Abe misspoke at the beginning, but this has been the 53rd episode of You Had Me at Halo, XboxEra's official Halo podcast. This is the end of the show, so I'm going to toss it on over to Soul and say, hey, Soul, people wanted to find you online. Where could they do that?
Well, actually, speaking of, nothing's finalized yet, but I've made a little bit of the stuff, and I think I will be streaming Halo every week. On our channel, and ideally, whenever you guys can join, we will. Hopefully, I was thinking Tuesday evenings.
Make it clear, the Twitch channel, which is the XboxEra,
the Twitch channel. Yes, I'm gonna do some test streams on my own channel this weekend. Make sure it's all good. Because in general, I feel like the five of us, we should really be playing more Halo together. It's a really fun game. Just like the 3 matches we played. Yeah, that too. But also Halo. Even if it's campaign, even if it's man, I really want to do an in-house Last Spartan Standing. I feel like that'd be super fun and intense. But yeah, find me there. Otherwise, I have a video that I edited coming out that Abe narrated and wrote. It's a great video. Watch out for that.
All your day, so you're going to get a bad grade?
It did. It literally took like 5-6 hours today. I was like, come on. And John made me self-conscious, and I'm editing it again. I'm going to render it again. But anyways, yeah.
Daniel, I know. Yeah, you have a very interesting Twitter handle over there. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, at Digital Scientist without the final I. So Digital Scientist. It's character
Digital Scientist.
Not Knottian, so I do what I can. You can find me at Knottian on the forums in our community, and I'm a moderator over there. So
if you ever want to get in touch with Dan, say something stupid, and he will be all over you on that forum.
Or be careful, because Proven might ban you for a month before he gets the chance to see it.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm kidding. Proven, if you're listening, we love you, buddy. Jesse, if people were looking for you online, where would they find you perusing about?
Almost everything that goes up on this channel. You can't get away from me. I'm very sorry. I didn't try to be on every live stream along this showcase weekend, but it just happened that way. But right now I am working, as Mort knows, on one of his favorite game series now, AI: The Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative, which comes out on the 24th.
Japanese name, all right?
Yeah. So
nice short name for a game. I love it.
Yep, look for a review of this pseudo sequel to the original AI: The Somnium Files, which is on Game Pass, and I also did review. So that one's coming at some point before the 24th. when the game releases. I should have. I'm going to start working on Cuphead, the delicious last course, real soon. That'll be the end of the month. I'm also working on Crut, the Mythic Wings, which isn't coming out till July 11th, so that one's not coming anytime soon. But yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back streaming soon, Mort. ASET, you bet.
All right, well, Abe.
No one cares about it.
Yeah, whatever.
Same thing for you, buddy. Where are we finding you? You got any podcasts this week?
I know one you're not on.
Oh my God. So yeah, if anybody wants to find me, you can see my handle right up here. It's at Mutha_1 on Twitter. And if I do anything, I'll let you know there. If I show up on anybody's podcasts, I'll let you know there. We do have a top 10. Basically, XboxEra, we had, I think, about 10 of us all participated in it and kind of voted on our top games. So see what our top games of the show were, and some key talking points that we wanted to discuss. So that video probably will be coming out tomorrow morning. So
yeah, I mean, I'll re-render it again because I'm gonna, I guess, fix the subscribe button. And I was gonna say, man, you just reminded me. I was gonna mention, and watch this video. At the very ending, he talks a little bit of Halo and like its lack of being on there, and it's done really well. And I was actually gonna bring that up in today's episode. And like, hey, Abe mentions this because it's really relevant. But yeah, well written, very well narrated too.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes.
Here is our XboxEra top 10. kidding.
But actually, there is
Is
another.
that your old man yelling at the clouds?
Oh,
voice?
that was my Abe Mitt the Frog.
Abe, there is another audio mistake that I'm not telling you, and I'm wondering if you'll catch it. I'm curious, but
oh my goodness!
I didn't fix the other one. Anyways, yeah.
What the hell? John is still up.
Guys,
All right, let's go.
of course, you can find me wherever you want to find me. I'm always going to be there. I promise you. Now, though, it is at Austin Ford Games. Forebear is dead. Rest in peace. You hate to see it, that whole thing. Make sure you check out Drop Pod. Make sure you check out all of the content going up on XboxEra across the board, including over at patreon.com/XboxEra. It's a great way to support us if you enjoy what we do. If not, that's okay too. Go ahead and leave a comment, and maybe we'll respond to it. Guys, thank you so much for watching the newest episode of You Had Me at Halo. Until next time, be safe, have fun, and we'll see you later.
Cheers, by the way.
Take it easy.